Folks, welcome back to another edition of the Play Action Podcast. Our Masters coverage continues. I got my good buddy Cam Rogers, national sports betting and golf analyst, as well as host of Lock It In on Believe Network. You can follow him at Mr. Rogers99 on Twitter. Cam, thanks a lot for joining us.
What's going on, man? Great to be with you. Great to catch up with you.
Yeah, for sure. This is it, man. This is the week. I'm telling people, this is my favorite week in sports now. And it's like the national championship's almost just like a little appetizer.
It's Jim Nantz season, if you will. We have him calling the national championship game here tonight, and then he's off to Augusta to cover the Masters. Obviously, you know, sometimes he'll be covering the Super Bowl as well. So this is the time of year where things are really ratcheting up in the sports world, yeah.
What a gig he's got. So, obviously, a lot of the attention right now focused on El Tigre, Tiger. He's made his way to Augusta. He's going to play. I mean, what are you expecting, or how much are you enjoying this storyline so far?
Oh, it's so fun. And I think to a degree, he's sort of dragging this out a little bit. My projection, actually, was that he was going to announce on Friday, because if you look at the last 3 times his Masters status was in question, he announced the Friday before the Masters, and typically in that 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock window. So he loves the Friday news dumps, but I guess he just wasn't sure. And he shows up to Augusta again yesterday, gets a practice round in. He's on the interview schedule for tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So my assumption now is, okay, he's going to announce then and say that he is going to play at the Masters. I think he is taking it day by day just because there is still the potentiality for a setback in his mind. So he wants to go through the proper process and go ahead and probably announce tomorrow during that press conference. But, you know, just putting this all into perspective, we're talking about a guy who almost lost his leg just over a year ago, and here he is at Augusta National, potentially playing in the biggest golf tournament in the entire year, and could perhaps contend. Who really knows? He looked pretty darn good at Augusta yesterday. I looked at some video. The swing looks awesome. It doesn't really come down to that, though. It comes down to his ability to walk this golf course. It's very difficult to walk. The terrain is hilly. The undulations are all over the place, but the other thing, too, is Tiger Woods knows this course like the back of his hand, so he can sort of walk around the golf course in the way in which that it actually favors his leg the best, if that makes any sense at all. Like, he has his own Tiger path probably in his head about how he's going to walk this golf course, but I'm so glad this is a storyline, because I think otherwise the main storyline would have been, like, Rory McIlroy for the career Grand Slam, which is fun, or like the fact that Phil Mickelson isn't here, which is less fun to talk about because I'm kind of sick about talking about Phil Mickelson and this PR nightmare that he's going through. So in the end, it's awesome. I can't wait for him to put a tee into the ground on Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon.
If he does play, I mean, obviously, you know, even walking around, that just kind of thing that would take its, you know, course over the weekend. If he does play, do you expect him to make the cut?
I do. He has never missed the cut at the Masters as a professional, so I do think he will make the cut. You know, you have to factor in the fact that we have 6 amateurs and a slew of past champions who are not full-time players on the PGA Tour, and they are essentially locks to finish in last if they make the cut or miss the cut altogether. Talking about Fred Couples and Jose Maria Olazabal. These guys are older. They don't play all that much on the professional circuits anymore, so yeah, I think Tiger can probably make the cut. I think it's worth a look in terms of his odds out there as far as a top 30 finish is concerned, a top 40 finish is concerned. You have to go back actually to one example from 2010 when Tiger had this long layoff after the Thanksgiving PR nightmare and what have you. And I know this is not an injury situation that we're talking about here, but he showed up to Augusta having played no PGA Tour golf at all in that calendar year, and he finished T4. So he can kind of pull a rabbit out of his hat, if you will, randomly finish T21 this week, and that would be a monumental achievement, in my opinion. I know in Tiger's opinion, it wouldn't be. And I will make this note, too. He's not playing for a top 20. He's not playing for a top 10. He's playing for a 6th green jacket. That's how he operates. That's his mindset. And I think if he felt like he didn't have a chance to win this week, he wouldn't be playing. So self-belief is number 1 for him, of course.
And what a storyline that would be. I mean, it was a storyline when he won 3 years ago.
Would be the story of the millennium, in my opinion, if he were to win this week.
Okay. We got a prop sheet going over at playactionpools.com. One of our kind of top letter, we have a classified as the top guns, though. The guys that are like the highest at the top of the board. We got John Rahm, Cameron Smith, Scotty Scheffler, and JT. Will one of those guys win it? Yes or no?
Oh, I like that. I like that. So can you say that one more time? JT, John Rahm, Scheffler, and
Cameron Smith.
Cameron Smith? I think that's a pretty quality bet because you look at John Rahm, you look at Justin Thomas, those guys are inside my top 3 in terms of my power rankings here this week. I think Justin Thomas has been absolutely elite with his ball striking so far this year. He is due for another victory. He doesn't have a win going in the last calendar year. He did win the Players' Championship last year, but that's been over a year for him. So I think things are setting up for him to really have success this week. He's inside the top 10 in terms of strokes gained tee to green so far this year. 8 of the last 10 Masters winners were inside that top 10 in terms of strokes gained tee to green. John Rahm also in that bracket, if you will. I'm off Scheffler, and I'm not a big fan of how he's going to perform this week along the same lines with Cameron Smith. They've been winning recently, and sometimes you can have a little bit of regression to the mean because of that, especially with Cam Smith. He hasn't played at all, I don't think, since the Players' Championship. That's a little concerning to me. Is he partying it up in Maui too much? I don't know. So that's a little bit of a concern there. But I think, in terms of that bet, you're hedging it on Justin Thomas or John Rahm, and I think those guys have serious win equity this week.
All right. We got a few head-to-heads in there as well. How about Rory versus DJ head-to-head?
This one's tough because I have them both inside my top 10 here this week. You're splitting hairs a little bit here, but I'm going to go with Rory McIlroy. I know the pressure is on him, of course, at the Masters, given that he's going for the career Grand Slam and what have you. You have to go back to 2014 for the last time he actually won a major championship. It's obviously been a shorter span for Justin Johnson. He's a recent Masters champion back in 2020. I'll go Rory McIlroy here. I don't feel great about it because these guys should be inside the top 10, both of them this week. But I'll go with Rory here. I think I've seen more from him so far this year than Dustin Johnson, so I'll go off of that data.
How about Brooks versus Spieth?
I'm going Brooks Koepka on that one here this week. Again, 2 guys that are inside my top 10 here this week, but Brooks Koepka is trending nicely. Some really good finishes at the Honda Classic, the Valspar, Waste Management, Phoenix Open. Tee to green game has been really darn good. Number 1 in strokes gained total in this field in majors since 2008. He loves the big game events. No disrespect to Jordan Spieth. I think he'll have a fine week as well, but his putter has been ice cold lately, and that's something he typically relies on, so I'll go Brooks there.
This one's a good one, favorite of mine. These are 2 young guys likely to be the face of the game for years to come. Victor Hovland versus Colin Morikawa.
Absolutely. And Colin Morikawa is not getting a lot of buzz here this week, has just been okay so far this season. Victor Hovland has been a lot better, statistically speaking, so far this season. But Colin Morikawa has multiple major championships in just 8 starts in his young career. So no disrespect to him either, but I'm going to go with Victor Hovland on that one. I think he has the better iron game right now in terms of recent form. So I'll go with Hovland here. I think he is due for a major championship.
And this one's kind of more just a fun one, kind of a dart. Hole-in-one, yes or no? Will anyone have a hole-in-one throughout the tournament?
I'll go yes. I think the pin placement on Sunday at number 16 lends itself to having hole-in-one opportunities because you look at that little ball you have there in the back left corner of that 16th green. If you hit it in the right spot, it can feed down there. We've seen aces on that Sunday before. Typically, it's in the morning when the pressure is off these guys and they're not really in contention, but certainly worth a bet, worth a sprinkle.
Yeah, and if you want to sprinkle that on a Sunday, too, and say it's a round 4 hole-in-one, I'm sure you'll get some decent odds on that. One thing we also like to do is salary cap contests where, you pick a team of guys and you get as many points, basically their average points of their official world golf rankings. You mentioned Brooks. He's kind of down there as someone that might be some value there. Is there anyone up there on that world golf rankings right now that you'd be looking to fade? Or is there anyone in the mid to lower tiers that you think can be some real good value there?
Yeah, so Bryson DeChambeau is a guy that I am completely off here this week, to be honest with you. I'm just not really sure where his game is at right now. He's not necessarily a top 10 player as we stand. He's number 19 in the official world golf rankings, but been dealing with a bone bruise in his hand, did not look good at the match play, hasn't looked good really at all so far in this calendar year, and he's trying to gut it out right now. And historically speaking, the Masters has not been a good tournament for him. So you couple all of that together, I think Bryson DeChambeau is probably in for a disappointing week. Billy Horschel is number 13 in the official World Golf Rankings. But if you actually look at the data as far as historical Masters performances are concerned, Billy Horschel is one of the worst in this field. Him and Kevin Kisner have struggled mightily. Shane Lowry, another notable guy who has struggled here at the Masters. So I would stay off of Billy Horschel. I would stay off of Bryson DeChambeau. Going down the board a little bit here, Corey Connors. He has been automatic hitting fairways, and his iron game is pristine. He is at number 32 in the official World Golf Rankings. He's a nice dart throw, dark horse, however you want to say it, here this week. And I think he's due at some point for a major championship because he has that type of game where he's just automatic with his irons. All he needs is that putter to cooperate, and that can certainly happen here this week. Given the recent history for Corey Connors at the Masters, it's pretty good.
How's the weather going to impact things? You're hearing a lot about the weather as we come into the week. How's that going to impact, the play and, who wins it, I guess?
Yeah, I would take a peek at the forecast here. It looks like we're getting a lot of water, at least to start this Masters week. We're getting some rain tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. That means it could be a soaked-out golf course for the weekend. Typically, the storyline is when a golf course gets a lot of rain, it favors the Bombers. By the way, I haven't noted this yet, but the Augusta National Golf Club layout this week is longer than ever before. It's going to be 7,500 yards long. Then you factor in the rain, too, less roll off the tee. That's probably going to favor the Bombers. The Dustin Johnsons, the Brooks Koepkas, the Jon Rahms of the world, those guys will have the advantage here. And also, shorter irons into those receptive greens so guys can go flag hunting a little bit. Could see some low scores. So keep an eye on the forecast for sure.
All right, so give us a couple. Who do you like? You kind of mentioned it, but who are some of the guys you're going to be on outright this week?
Yeah, I'm on Justin Thomas. I'm on Jon Rahm in the outright market, as well as Dustin Johnson. But I'll give you another name we haven't mentioned yet. Will Zalatoris was second runner-up in his debut at the Masters last year. I think this is a guy who is automatic with his irons, bombs it off the tee, inside the top 10 in strokes gained tee to green here this PGA Tour season. I think he is certainly worth a bet. When you show up to Augusta National for the first time as a professional and finish second, that's uber impressive to me. I think he carries that momentum here into this week. I think he is certainly worth a bet in the outright market. I wouldn't get too cute this week as far as going down the board and sprinkling long shots. This is not a long shot tournament. This is a tournament that is chalky. That's why you have big time names like Dustin Johnson, like Jordan Spieth, like Tiger Woods winning this thing, and even contending like a Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, and Xander Schauffele. So Will Zalatoris, Brooks Koepka, Rory McIlroy is another guy I'm looking at in the outright market, Justin Thomas, and Dustin Johnson.
Cam Rogers, Believe Network, lock it in, at Mr. Rogers99 on Twitter. Thanks a lot, Cam. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate